Hello, everybody. It's the Looking Glass, and today we're going to get into a little bit of Nick Cannon isms. It's not an ism, but Nick Cannon. And the reason why I think it's important for us to get into it, because I think it's important for all of us as a community, for those of us who've gone on that same exact journey as Nick Cannon and Ice Cube and uh, Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce. All of us are going through the exact same journeys, which is trying to figure out, what is our greatness? Where does it come from? Where do we come from? What is our ancestry lineage? What were our ancestors doing in the countries that they lived at the time? What were their gifts? What were their talents? What were their trades? How does that connect you to what you should be doing in your life in this lifetime, right? And we don't have a lot of those questions answered. And so what we do is we go on a journey trying to figure that out. And before us, there have been other people that have gone on a journey to try to figure that out, and they have piecemealed together what we see now as the Black Israelites. And what we find out with the Black Israelites is what they're doing is taking the same Bible that our oppressors were given to us to force down our throats so they can erase our ancestral heritage and traditions, to assimilate into accepting that the Bible is telling us that who we are is in fact a curse, and that we're actually heathens. You can't keep doing that. You're so rude. That's my cat. Sorry. So rude. Anyhow, as I was saying. And so what we are not talking about enough of right now is, what is it like to be Black and working class and Black and poor, and have to try and grapple with the conditions of what you're seeing in your environments, in your neighborhoods, and asking all these questions like, God, how can you? God, why am I? God, why are we in this situation? I must be terrible. I must be this. I must be that. The same questions I'm sure some of our ancestors struggled with, because those questions always went unanswered. Lynching still happened. So if just taking a moment to just think about the perspective of a Black working class person compared to all these celebrities that are talking about and saying it's anti-Semitic and all this stuff. I'm not gonna lie, the stuff that I heard, I was like, well, I mean, that kind of like, that's the rabbit hole that we've been going down, but it's actually bigger than that. And why it's bigger than that is because it has to do with us trying to find ourselves. And unfortunately, the few things that we have available to us, because we did not get this education, this pre-slavery education in elementary school, in middle school, and in high school, and even in college, for some people who maybe not got access to some classes, didn't get that information either. So you're left with trying to go on the internet or wherever else you can to kind of piece things together. And yes, you may seem ignorant, but at the same time, are you though? Because the information that we do have about Black people, it isn't being shared on the History Channel or National Geographic or NPR. I mean, NPR actually is doing a lot of good things. I shouldn't say that. But for all these other places like History Channel, you would expect to see a lot more stories that are about African people too, but there isn't. So even in those spaces that should be open for us to get this information beyond our primary school and secondary schooling, we're not getting that, which means we have to try to figure out how to get there. How do we connect those dots to show what our greatness is and what we're supposed to be doing in our lives, because we get a chance to know where we're coming from. We don't have that right now. And so this is why you get the Black Israelites. And just to give you some context, I grew up in Judaism, Christianity, Rastafarian kind of Christianity, Catholicism for a bit of time. Not heavily, but we used to go to the Catholic Church, get holy water. And, that was where we were connecting to as we were going through our spiritual and religious journey, if you will. And what I know is that the questions have never been answered about where we come from beyond what we've learned about our immediate ancestors, like our grandparents. And when you have that kind of conflict with yourself, that emptiness that you're trying to feel and understand, you get to these places where you get information that is being connected by other people who also have been trying to go on that exact same journey. And so I don't fault Nick Cannon for arriving where he is. There are plenty of Black people, plenty, that believe this. Plenty. And the reason why we believe these things is because we've not been given anything else other than what the books that we get in school have given to us, and what y'all want, and those who make the books want us to learn about it. Now, if you don't want us to learn these things, and if you don't want us to have to piecemeal and connect all these dots the way we were doing, then give us the information that have been hidden from us. Give us the information that's in the universities, in primary and secondary school, so we can be educated. And don't kick us when we're not educated, because that was the intention of white supremacy as a structural system, to not give us this information. Not here, not in Europe, not in India, not in Asia, not in South America. Nobody learned about us, but we learned about you. And so I can understand why Nick arrived at what he did, because many people were listening, and they listened to the end because they were tuned in about it. For the rest of the media that doesn't know, and y'all would know about this if you actually went into our communities and talked to us about the things that we're trying to figure out for ourselves. So maybe this is an opportunity for the media and everybody else that's calling for Nick Cannon to lose his job to actually go into our communities. And if black lives really do matter, learn about what we're missing in our life, learn about what our traumas are, learn about our generational curses and why they're manifesting themselves in the way that they do, where we're trying to figure out who our enemy is. Who else is our enemy? And now we need to talk a little bit about what actually is happening in Israel. Not the foolishness that's going on with the Black Israelite stuff, but what actually is happening right now, which is Israel is acting like a apartheid state and is taking land from the Palestinians and treats its Ethiopian Jew brethren and sistren like how we're treated here in America. They're beating them up on the streets. There have been deaths just like there have been here. This is why you're seeing the protests that are happening across the world, because it's not just happening here. White supremacy is keeping Black people's populations down in many places. And I don't say it's a conspiracy to do so. It's just a part of the system. That's just how it's designed. So what we really need to be talking about is how Israel is out here being racist to Black Ethiopians, which I guess they're all Black. And what we really need to be talking about is how Israel is being racist to the Palestinians. And then we can talk about how we can see the pattern of behavior where this always keeps happening under the white supremacist infrastructure. It's happened in North America and Canada, where there were Native Americans there too, in Alaska, in US of A right now, in South America, in the Caribbean. All of those indigenous Native Americans don't have their lands anymore. Who took those? Where's their history? And we know enough about their history, but it's almost like the way I see it is like a romanticism of, look at how we took down this great empire. And we can't deny it because we can see all what's left of these empires here in South America. And so I know I'm kind of going on a tangent a little bit about that, but it is important because we get to see the pattern of behavior, white supremacy, and what would lead to us to believe that there is an enemy here too within this Jewish country. Because America has a relationship with this Jewish country, but never holds them account to their civil rights issues with how they deal with race in their country and how they make their brethren, who crazy enough, because the Bible tells us that these folks are Ishmael, and I remember that story, Abraham, and I can't remember the full story because I've long since not paid attention to Christianity, but from what I remember that the two are family members, but one is treating the other like crap. And the same thing is happening to the Ethiopian Jews. So if we want to talk about problems in Israel and anti-Semitism and all this stuff, let's talk about anti-white supremacy, anti-racism that's happening in these places that are supposed to be our allies. And they're the youth there, they're protesting. They know this is wrong. But let's have a deeper conversation about the journey of being a lost people and where you find yourself trying to understand what the greatness is of your lineage and your history and your ancestry. And then let's also talk about modern day, what white supremacy looks like beyond America and what it looks like in Israel. And it's not anti-Semitic to call out what is going on when it's the truth. So, Nick, I stand with you. I stand with you because I understand the journey. It's not easy. It's the hardest thing when you're a person that's curious and you know something's missing and you're trying to figure out, and you can say to yourself, there's no way. Kanye went on this journey. That's like, I mean, it didn't make any sense what he was trying to say, but Kanye was basically trying to say, like, we need to be free. We have some greatness in us. We just don't have the dots connected. We're trying to figure this out. And what y'all are not going to do, you can do it, but you're not going to not have a rebuttal to it. You're not going to just drag us through the mud, because we are a lost people. We are trying to figure out who we are. And if you wanted better from us, you should have given us better. You should have given us the education to tell us who we were after slavery. Many of times we try to fight for these rights for ourselves, and we keep getting the kick down. Every time we try to do something for ourselves, it's against somebody else. It has nothing to do with you. White supremacy, stop making it about you. It ain't about you. There are other people out here. And those other people deserve to know who they are, where they come from. The Native Americans, they've lost all of their spiritual traditions, nearly. And that was what made them strong, because that's what gave them purpose. That's what gave them an understanding of what their connection was in living life. We're trying to figure out what our connection is in living life. And the only way for us to know that is for us to go on these journeys. So while y'all are giving us a hard time, or giving Nick a hard time about his journey, take some time to ask us about it. And you might learn something about our journey. You might learn something about the trauma that's happening, the generational curses that continue to keep happening over and over and over again in our communities, because we are not allowed to be a free thinking people. And when we are, the first thing we're met with is reverse racism and anti-Semitism. And yes, this was wrong. It was ignorant. But again, we're a lost people that don't have an education to get any of this information that we need to get. And you can say, well, you should know about the Holocaust and you should know about this. That's not what it's really about. It has nothing to do with the Holocaust. It has to do with who owns a power structure. And right now, if you are white, you own the power structure. It doesn't matter what part of whiteness you come from. And so it's not, the intention is not to cause harm to Jewish people. Come on now, give that man a little bit more credit than that. Y'all seen his work. Y'all see what he does. And so you're no different in jumping to such a stretch of a conclusion rather than saying, well, why did you think like that? What made you think that? Why did you come from that? You thought he just got up one day and was like, I hate all Jewish people. I'm gonna ruin my career. No. And this is something we all need to learn how to do. We all need to just learn how to take a step back and ask questions and get some clarification, because we love jumping to some conclusions. But I just wanted to give some context behind that, and hopefully it helps. And I would say, if you're curious about these conversations that are happening in the Black community about Black Israelites and the Kemet movement and Ifa movement and Orisha movement and Voodoo movement and all these different things that are happening right now, that's happening within our Black communities too, ask someone. Don't assume. And to Black Christians and Black Muslims, don't come for us. Y'all have what y'all have. You good with that? You be good with that. For the rest of us who are trying to free our minds, who want to seek something greater than what we've been given, we want to make the choice. We don't want to be told that this is what you must believe because that's what my granddaddy, my great-great-granddaddy, my great-great-great-granddaddy, all of our slave ancestors had to believe in. We want to be able to say it is time for us to expand and go beyond what we've been taught. And the first step of that is trying to understand your history. And this is where a lot of Black people are. Some of us have gone beyond that, and we've gone into the movement of our spiritual understanding of our history. And there's different paths that people are taking on for that journey. But we should not ignore and act like that people are not allowed to have that experience for themselves. We are. All right, I'm at 15. I didn't mean for this to go this long, but I just had a lot to say. And hopefully we start having different conversations about the journey of finding ourselves in these spaces where we're trying to get as much history as possible when it comes down to Egyptian history and all these different things. Why are we asking these questions? Why are we trying to seek where our ancestors come from? Why are we trying to get DNA tests? Why are we trying to do all these things? Because we're trying to connect to something greater than ourselves. And in order to do so, you have to use the information that's in front of you, and sometimes it's bad. And then you have to be able to be willing to say, okay, What is there? What do I do with the information that I have? How is it going to help me improve my community? And if it doesn't, then keep digging. So it's a looking glass. I hope that you got some silver linings, some glass half fulls in terms of how you look at things, and give yourself permission to look at them differently and be different. Be that one person that has that little extra something or not enough something compared to everybody else. We're all different anyway. Allow people to think freely as they want to. And if anything, have a conversation. Ask those questions and don't just dismiss each other because the assimilation has taught us to do so. Deuces out.